Hey, Mega Man, trademark of Capcom. Welcome everybody to the original Mega Man game released in 1987 by Capcom. I believe this was the second game that Keiji Inafune worked on during his tenure at the company. And I know that I said that after Gunvolt I wouldn't be doing full Let's Plays of it. And I'm changing my mind. To be fair, that Gunvolt video isn't up yet, the finale, but I'm changing my mind. Because I want to play some Mega Man. So let's play some Mega Man. In honor of Mega Man 11 coming out, I'm gonna probably just be redoing the classic Mega Man games. I know at least I'm gonna try to do 1 through 6. I might redo 7, although I'm somewhat proud of how my Mega Man 7 run came out, because that was honestly probably my best run that I've ever had at that game. Mega Man 8, 9, and 10, however, this will probably be the first time they appear on this channel. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with how the original Mega Man works, pretty basic stuff. You jump, you shoot. Honestly, there's kind of a weird delay to everything in the original Mega Man, and I'm not huge on the original Mega Man. I think that it's an alright game, but by the standards of, like, what the Mega Man series did after this, I think this is honestly the weakest official classic game. Although, I know a lot of people would probably say that Mega Man 2 for the Game Boy is probably the weakest official classic game, and they definitely have a point with that. But there's a lot about the original Mega Man that's just... I don't know. This game is fun, but it also gives me plenty to complain about. But I should talk about the good things, though. I mean, the game is bright, it's colorful, it's cartoony. It controls reasonably well, although, like, as I mentioned offhand before, there's kind of a weird delay to a lot of things. Mega Man seems to have this acceleration in this game that he doesn't have in any of the other Mega Man titles. It's really weird, but he doesn't, like, immediately start moving, he doesn't immediately stop. And I think this is something that Mega Man, like, even Mega Man 2 got rid of that part of it. Like, I still don't think that Mega Man 2 controls as tight as some of the later games, although I don't know, maybe I'm stumbling about my words a little bit, but maybe that's just because it didn't have the slide. Big sucker for Mega Man 3, because that slide is pretty fun. But, I don't know, the original Mega Man definitely has issues, but I also don't think I'd go as far as to call it a bad game. It's more mediocre than anything, but it does manage to kind of have the whole, like, oh, we've, you know, this is where the series started, and it's kind of a novelty because of that. Now, for those of you who might not have played the original Mega Man, this game is also kind of unforgiving at times. There's a lot of parts about the original Mega Man that I'd consider bullshit. And I'm not gonna mince words on the matter, like, there is some pretty hefty bullshit in Mega Man 1. And I think that Capcom didn't really know what they were doing when they made this game. And obviously, like, now, Mega Man is, like, one of Capcom's biggest franchises. But I find it so funny that both the original Mega Man and the original Street Fighter are not very good, although I'll say Mega Man 1 is still much better than Street Fighter 1. Unfortunately, I didn't finish off that, Big Eye quickly enough. Now, I'm playing this on the Switch version of the game, part of the Mega Man Legacy Collection, and I think I might actually go back and forth through this room to get some pickups. This is another one of the weird things about Mega Man 1. There's, like, enemies in the boss corridors, and it's really strange, but it allows you to get a few pickups if you really need them before a boss fight. Not that Cutman is a particularly hard fight, and even through that, like, even if he was difficult, the Legacy Collection does have a rewind function. But I still want health, because he can still do damage, and I play a lot of games sloppy. Ilberd is all over my gameplay style, you know? He just finds it amusing how sloppy I play. But yeah, you can actually see, like, the rewind function here. Yeah! Well, I got health out of it. I'm not going to be using the rewind function too much. There's not really that much of a point to it, other than like, oh, I died to like a cheap shot or something like that. It's honestly not that big a deal, and Mega Man 1 does have some bullshit that kind of warrants the use of a rewind function sometimes. Cutman is not among them. Cutman is pretty easy. But then again, Cutman takes like 3 damage from your buster shots, like 2 or 3 No, yeah, it had to be 3, because he ended with an odd number. Huh, that's how math works. Weird. Alright, and with Cutman defeated, and his energy element obtained, we can move on to fight Elecman, but I'm actually not gonna do that. And one of the reasons why is Bombman is another one of the easier Robot Masters to deal with, so I want to get his stage out of the way as well. Oh, right. Also on the Legacy Collection, for some reason, right bumper pauses the game on Mega Man 1. And I understand part of the reason why, because the original Mega Man, you could actually pause the game in 2 different ways. You could pause the game with Start, which would open up your weapons menu, or you could pause it with the Select button. Now, Select button in this game brings up the options menu and whatnot, so there's not too much of a point to pressing that, but the R button, on the other hand, definitely has a point to it. And I don't know if I'm going to be doing the pause trick for this game. I might try to do the Mega Man 2 pause trick, because that also has a function as well. But I don't know if I'm going to be trying to do the pause trick, or if I'm going to be doing, like, the Yellow Devil proper. Because, let's be honest, nobody wants to fight the Yellow Devil properly. Myself included. You know, I'm just like, oh, I feel so bad for the Yellow Devil, everyone cheats. But at the same time, fuck that boss. But Mega Man 1 also has a lot of, like, really bad boss fights, to be fair. And Sniper Joes. Thankfully, however, this allows us to show off that cool new weapon we got, the Rolling Cutter. The Rolling Cutter is pretty good. It fires in kind of a weird boomeranging Nobody saw that. Okay, that's the last time I'm gonna do the rewind, I promise. I just was trying to do a little bit of a weapons explanation here, but the Boomerang Cutter, it travels in an arc. It's a pretty neat weapon. Mostly it's useful for killing certain enemies that can't be killed with other types of weapons, but it can also be used to pierce multiple enemies as well. And here's an example of an enemy that can't be killed using other types of weapons. You have to use a special weapon to kill these floor guys. I forgot what they're actually called. I think they're Gaboyal? There's a lot of enemy names as well. I don't... Oh god, Mega Man 1 control. I don't remember all the enemy names. I mean, it's obviously not really that important. Oh, right. I do remember these guys are like Killer Bullet or Killer Bomb or something like that. Oh, Poopy, why Why'd you have to go off screen and respawn? There's also a lot of enemies in Mega Man 1, in particular, that, like, infinitely respawn. And I don't entirely understand it. I mean, I guess it adds a challenge to it, but it's not fun. Ah, these guys too. These orbs coming out of their shells. The Ninja Turtles coming out of our shells tour. Right up there is a 1-up. I'm not gonna worry too much about it though, but I am gonna get the Sniper Joe stuck in space. I don't know if it's gonna show up on the feed, but this guy is warping around a ton. That is not weapon switch. It's also gonna be a pain in the ass to, get my weapons switched around as well. Because unfortunately, in this game, you can't use the shoulder buttons to swap around your weapons. And that's something that a lot of the later Mega Man games on later systems had. But not this one. So yeah, I press R there. It's unfortunate. Oh, right, this room. If I play my cards right, I can drop down like this. Never mind. Never mind. That's fine. I wanted to do the suicide refill anyway. I believe if I actually, like, hug the right wall, I should be able to get through this without getting hit. Never mind. I'm full of shit today, apparently. That's reassuring. To be fair, I don't always go out and play Mega Man 1. For some obvious reasons. I mean, it's an alright game, but the sequels are better. This Mega Man is one of those cases where, like, the sequels are definitively better than the original game. There we go. Also wanted to grab the energy element there, because otherwise I would have died to that hyper bomb, and that would have been embarrassing. Projectiles can still linger on screen and kill you even when the boss is dead, which is a bit of a pain. Alright. Gutsman. Clear points. 60,000. Yeah. Now I'm absolutely going to try to do this proper, although Gutsman stage is a little bit of a pain in the butt. Ooh, we got a 1-up. Nice. Maybe things won't be so bad. So these moving platforms, these guts lifts, if they come back, thank you. They make an obnoxious sound, which I don't know if that's coming through. I can't hear it on my TV, but I'm going to assume it's there. There we go. Jump 1, jump 2, jump 3, jump 4, jump 5, and move it! There we go. Those things are a pain in the ass without a certain item that we can get later in a Lekman stage. Kind of a mobility option. Unfortunately, we don't have that. I'm gonna switch to bombs here. There we go. So, Hyper Bomb is not a particularly good weapon. These guys, the Picket Men, are best fought at a distance. The Hyper Bomb does kill them in one hit, which is really nice. The problem is, though, the Hyper Bomb doesn't explode on hit with an enemy. So oftentimes you have to do a little bit of dodge work. The explosion is nice and big, though, which is good. But you have to do a little bit of dodge work before you can actually, you know, secure that kill and whatnot. So it's absolutely not the best weapon in the game. It's not the worst weapon Mega Man has ever had, but it's still pretty bad. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna get a chance to use this on Big Eye here, so I'm just gonna bypass him. Big Eyes are honestly not worth fighting. If you want me to be real, it's not worth fighting just for the chance that they might drop some health, because those things have 28 points of health. They have as much health as Mega Man does. I think I'm gonna make another run to the left, just to kill more metals and just to get a little bit more health going here. Come on. Health drop would be lovely. Okay, one more run. We're gonna do one more back and forth. I can fight Gutsman with this much health, but I kinda want the insurance. Being able to, like, ensure my victory. Alright, that's fine. Thankfully, bombs are the weakness of Gutsman, who is honestly not that hard of a boss fight. I wouldn't say that he's as easy as Cutman is, but his weapon, or his weakness, does kill him in 3 hits. Now, when he lands on the ground, he creates a shockwave that will stun Mega Man if he's on the ground. It doesn't do any damage, though, and like I said, he dies in 3 hits. Alright. Now, Gutsman's weapon, the Super Arm, I'm probably not going to be showing off in any kind of practical well, no, it comes in handy in this stage. It is not Elecman's weakness, though. Elecman's weakness is actually the Rolling Cutter. The Super Arm is Cutman's weakness. But I wanted to beat Cutman first because he's easy, and I wanted to beat Gutsman before I got to Elecman's stage because of a certain item that we can get in here. But unfortunately, it either requires us to use the Super Arm, oh, nice 1-up, or it requires us to have Elecman's weapon. Now, you might have noticed a few different types of blocks that appear, like the ones in Cutman's boss room or in Gutsman's boss room. Those can be picked up with the Super Arm, or they can be destroyed using a weapon like the Thunder Beam, which we're gonna get from Elecman. Now, the Thunder Beam, I wanted to not go to the Thunder Beam and then come back to this stage, because overall, doing Gutsman first does make it a little bit faster. Now, it's probably better to start with Bomb Man as your first Robot Master, since you get Gutsman's weakness just right off the bat. But screw doing things in a good order. I always fight Cutman first, because he's my friend. He's my buddy. I want to say hello to him. Alright, and now we have a Mega Man tradition, these annoying Yoku blocks. I'm not actually sure if they're called Yoku blocks in any of the official games proper, but that's what they're called in Mega Man Unlimited. It's kind of a fan name that appears. These blocks, basically after a set amount of time, will appear and then will disappear. They're solid when they're visible, they're not solid when they're not invisible. They've started appearing in this game, and they are a very big recurring theme of Mega Man games. I believe every Mega Man game has one level where they appear. Trying to remember exactly where they are. I think they're saved for the Wily Fortress in Mega Man 8. In Mega Man 7, they're in Burst Man stage. Mega Man 2 has them in Heat Man stage. God, Mega Man 3 has them in Magna Man stage. But we'll get to those when we get to them. Now, here's an example of what the Super Arm can do. It picks up blocks and allows us to throw them. The Super Arm has a lot of ammo, and you're throwing a big old boulder at people, so you'd think that it would be, like, super useful. Not really. The main use of the Super Arm is actually just to kill Cutman in 2 hits, and to use it to get the Magnet Beam. Now, the Magnet Beam is also a very interesting weapon, as it's not actually a weapon. By pressing the button, you create a platform in front of Mega Man. By holding the button, you can create a longer platform. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that when the platform runs out, Mega Man falls like a fucking brick. But more importantly than just that, this platforming item is very useful and actually required to beat the game. Now, I'm not entirely sure why Mega Man, like, falls so quickly after using the Magnum Beam. Although, I have a theory, and I have nothing to back up this claim, mind you. But the theory that I have is that Mega Man builds acceleration as he falls. But the game... Wait, what? That was weird, it just... A power-up just got pooped out. Okay, so Mega Man gains acceleration as he falls, and I don't think the game is programmed with the moving, or like the different platforms in mind. Now, obviously Mega Man can stand on here and not fall through, because it's like a solid block that he's standing on. And the game recognizes that he's standing. But I think that with platforms like the Magnet Beam and the Guts Lifts, the reason why he falls so quickly through them is because the game still registers him as being in the air and naturally builds up a ton of speed. Now, again, I don't have any way of confirming this. It is just a theory. A game theory, but I feel like that would also make some sense. I feel like Mega Man 1 is not necessarily the most well-built and programmed game. I think we're almost done with the Luckman stage. Gotta do these more beams. Yeah, okay, so this fucker right here. Hyper Bomb, you want to kill this guy? Unfortunately, he just blocks the path. Honestly, these guys are the fucking worst enemy. And another big problem that this game has, and the Mega Man franchise in general has, is... Oh.
Okay, that's fine.
God damn it, we're back here. I'll meet you guys back there, I guess. But I was going to explain that one of the big problems that the Mega Man games generally tend to have is Big Eye equivalents. And they're generally enemies that have, like, a ton of health and deal a ton of damage, usually just by coming into contact with Mega Man. Now, a lot of Mega Man games have them. I think every Mega Man game, up until Mega Man 7, has some sort of equivalent to it. Mega Man 7... not really, and I think, like, by that point they realized that it wasn't necessarily, like, a fun type of enemy to fight. Another thing to note, I guess, as well, since we're over here, is that any Guts blocks that you pick up actually won't respawn. Now, power-ups will respawn if you move, like, move them off the screen and then come back. So that's the reason why the Magnet Beam keeps respawning there, and you can even use that to refill your Magnet Beam energy. But the big thing is that power-ups will respawn, but the Guts blocks don't for some reason. Oh, thank you, I need that. I did not need that. Nobody needs points. This is also like the only Mega Man game that has a point system to it. And, pardon the pun here, but it's kind of pointless. But then again, like, this was like an arcade era, and there was even like a Mega Man flyer for arcades way back in the 1980s. With all those secret government employees and stuff like that. And it promoted Mega Man a lot in the arcades, and Capcom, around the time, I think they were mostly known as an arcade game company. So, a game like Mega Man for home consoles was a little bit surprising, and they didn't quite realize that, oh, we don't really need a score system. The score system also has 7 digits. Are you gonna... Yeah, you're gonna. Fuck. I hate the big eyes. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna go... I really should have just rushed it beforehand. Now, the unfortunate part about a Luckman stage is that we have to climb up this ladder, and there's no enemies to kill to get health. Instead, it's just these beam hazards. And when you think you've climbed up enough, turns out you haven't. But I am honestly glad to get Elecman's stage out of the way. And here he comes, the boy himself, Elecman. He is cool, he is intimidating, and he does 3 points of health per attack. But with the power of the pause trick, you can cheese it. Or he kills you in 3 hits, basically. But his weakness also kills him in 3 hits, and with the pause trick, he dies really quickly. I guess to explain the pause trick as well, because some people might not know what I'm talking about with that. So as I mentioned before, there's 2 ways of pausing the game. One with the start button on the NES, and one on the select button. Or if you're on the Switch version, it's plus and right bumper. And this is also a good opportunity to bring out the Thunder Beam as well. Which deals with these crazy razies. Basically, by pausing the game using the select button, the enemy's invincibility period actually keeps happening during it, and will run out. So basically, now it's a useless trick for the Mega Buster. Because your typical little pea shooter, the pellet fizzles out on contact with an enemy. But a weapon that goes through the enemy, like say, well, every special weapon in this game, will actually benefit a ton from using this. The pause trick is a very powerful cheese strat, and Iceman Stage allows you to moonwalk. Now here's another example of Yoku blocks in action, with slippery slidey ice physics. So this is kind of more of a stage that actually has a focus on these Yoku block patterns. Find the right pattern in order to win. Jump, jump, and jump. Now, you might also just decide instead to cheese it using the Magna Beam, and I don't blame you. In fact, the Magna Beam can be useful for a lot of cheese in this stage. So see, you can even get the Magna Beam stuck. Because of this section, these footholders right here. Now these are randomly moving platforms that fire in a set pattern. Basically, these guys don't deal any damage to you, but their shots do. And since they're randomly moving around, zigzagging around, stuff like that, it can be a pain in the ass to actually, get past them. Thankfully, the Magna Beam absolutely comes in handy with getting past them, and... Okay, there's that acceleration again, preventing me from getting the 1-up. I am going to fill up on Magna Beam. I honestly don't feel bad about using the pause trick, though, because even though it seems like a cop-out, A, it's something that the game lets me do to begin with, and B, again, Mega Man 1 throws a lot of bullshit at you, so I don't feel too bad about using it. Oop. I was hoping that I had the rhythm down for that. Especially because Iceman also kills in 3 hits. So what I want to do is... Nope, that was not the right button. That was not the right thing either. Alright. That's fun. Iceman is... I don't know. I'd consider him to be one of the hardest Robot Masters out there, because like Elecman, he kills you in 3 hits, but it's a lot harder to dodge his attacks. Especially because, your shots... No, wait, no, they don't tink off. What? I thought they did. Alright, well, go with that. His shots are hard to avoid, though. That's the big thing. I think Iceman's honestly just a badly designed boss fight, and he's better in some of the later games as well, like the Mega Man arcade games. He's better in Powered Up. But at least he got his weapon, which is fairly useful. How about we round this out with Fireman, then? I mean, I figure, you know, I tend to do half-hour-long videos anyway. Well, usually. So I figure, hey, since we don't have to worry about that YouTube 15-minute time limit anymore, I figure, why not just make them Youst of it? And get all the Robot Masters. Oh, really? Really? You decided then and there not to open your face? How dare you? Now, the weapon we got from Iceman stage, the Ice Slasher, is situationally useful. I'll see if I can demonstrate what I mean. The Ice Slasher doesn't do very much damage at all, but it freezes things. Now, things that are frozen solid can still damage you when you touch them, but are vulnerable to your other weapons. Which really makes me wonder, actually, why in Mega Man 3, why they make it so that you can't swap off your weapons when you stun somebody with a Spark Shock. Or, I sort of understand why that's a thing, considering that, like, the Spark Shock leaves a particle effect on the enemy, so it's like, oh, alright, you've got a projectile on the screen. Well, we can't let you pause the game while that's on the screen, because reasons, I guess. So let's just make it so that you can't swap your weapons out. And, alright, I guess I kind of understand that. The Spark Shock is still so bad, though. It's terrible. I'm gonna be honest, the Spark Shock is like one of my least favorite weapons in the Mega Man franchise. And I think a lot of people would probably agree with me on that. It's not a particularly good weapon. Even though it's got kind of like the novelty of being able to stun enemies. What the hell? Okay, alright. That's interesting. Cool. What? That is usually supposed to just be a solid floor you can stand on. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. That was really weird. How I just zipped. I mean, we take those, I guess. But that was still very odd. I swear, that's just a solid floor that Mega Man can stand on. Maybe it's weird emulation in the Switch version of the game? I don't know. To be fair, most people probably don't make it an effort to jump into what looks like a bottomless pit anyway. But, God, I swear that was... No use crying over it, Tails. No use crying over it. Let's just move on. Wasn't there a pickup up here? No? I swear there was. I swear there was, like, health. Unfortunately, these fireballs are not my friend. They never were. Oh, right! Because you can also freeze the fire when it's in the thingamajig, too. Because I think what they do is they don't, like, make an actual, like, fire projectile. They just move a damaging fire thing up and down. So I think because of that, you're actually able to, like, freeze it when technically it's not even on the screen. Friend request received? Wow! I will get to that after I'm done recording, I guess. Yep. There we go, let's do... No, that's it. Alright. Here's the Robot Master I was worried about, though. Fireman. Fireman is, in my opinion, one of the hardest Robot Masters to fight. Because he's relentless with his attacks, first off. And his weapon doesn't kill him that quickly. I mean, does a decent job of killing him, I guess, but compared to, like, a lot of the other boss weaknesses that are like, oh, they die in 2 hits, or in 3 hits or 2 hits or whatnot, His weapon, his weakness honestly seems like it's not that strong, which makes sense. Ice Slasher is the weakest in the game. It does less damage to most enemies than the Buster does, even. What doesn't help this guy is that his Firestorm projectiles also leave fire along the ground as well, so that makes it a lot harder to jump over his attacks. But that's Fireman extinguished. So that's all 6 of the Robot Masters down for Mega Man 1. And now we've got one last stage to go to, Dr. Wily. So I will see you guys in the next episode. This is Tails5Rocket signing out. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you're having a wonderful day.